So welcome back, Sally. It has been, as we were just talking about, it's been over a year since you and I talked. It was back at the end of August of 2018. And at that time, you were just in the beginning stages of diving full force in publicly, not that you hadn't been doing it on the back end, but publicly into your art. And as someone who's been watching your journey, you've just exploded with that work. So I thought it would be great. First of all, give a little short update on who you are to our group, but then let's talk about the then and now and lessons learned along the way.
Certainly, yeah. So I'm Sally Ann Saint, and I live in the UK. I'm an artist, writer, healer, and founder of Conscious Parenting. So that's my introduction. How I came into it is my life experiences weaved me this way, and then hey presto, I had a remarkable son that just blew me away and made me really look at the cobwebs in my life that had gathered dust and things that were no longer working. And immensely, as he grew, he helped me grow. And it was that symbolic thing of, as I saw him expand, I was being edged to do the same. It's a very intense process. Thankfully you have this loving being in front of you, but we all understand when you shift things, you have to go into the eye of the storm, and it's almost like you're going into the hurricane and you just pray you come out the other side. But you have this lovely little being beaming light at you and love at you. So it's been a very interesting journey. And as we discussed, my life, I've embraced things as I've gone on. Like we connected with the interview, I became more visible with my work, but I was becoming visible as me. So it was a very symbolic thing as I was being more relaxed about who I am and being willing to show who I truly am. My work just went, okay, you're ready and let's do it. And when I'd sit to create my artwork, it appeared and it was different. It was quite simplistic in some ways, but very bare. So it was like I was laying myself bare, very open. And there was a beauty in the simplicity because a lot of my work, I was showing trees with no leaves on. So it's that nakedness. So there was no need for the superficial things or the things that hide me, or it was just, it just showed who I was, and it was received. It was, I didn't expect it to be as received as it was, because I understood I was doing something that was different. I was just showing who I am. And it's been a wonderful journey. And you do have to bite the bullet very often. And that I would have these crises of confidence before I would do X, Y, Z. So I'm completely human with that. I'd have my moments and then I'd do it and love it. So this is the journey of life, isn't it? As we show who we are, we go, oh God, can we do it? And then actually when we do, it's great.
So let me ask you about that. Those moments where your confidence is kind of like teetering and you do it anyway, because that to me is one of those make or break moments. Like how many times are we on the edge, or maybe in the past, maybe not so much now for you, but where you get right up to the edge and you tippy toe up and you think, you look and you're going, that is a long way down. I don't know if I'm ready to go, right? Versus saying, I'm going, I'm taking it, right? I'm putting my wings out and see what happens. Did you learn anything about doing that? Have you always been good at doing that? Or was that just something now as you started putting yourself out more authentically has become not necessarily easier, but more, you expect it more of yourself to feel that and move on?
Yeah, I've learned tools now, but when I was 16, I developed an illness called ME, and that completely took me out of school. I was in bed for a year. It was a really intense time. And at that period, when I was going through it, I was told by the medical profession and help support groups, you don't recover, you're in a wheelchair. That was what I was told. And yet this was like a couple of years in. So I would have been 16, 17, 18. I was going through this. Something inside me went, no, that will not. And I had no one around me to sort of like give me that positive, I did it. I got through it. They were there saying this is long term. You're going to be like this for the rest of your life. That there was like gumption is what like an old-fashioned word you could put it, but something came through and like, no, this is not you. And I learned about my body, about complementary therapies, healing. It opened up the modality because the things that were helping me were the natural things. It was as simple as that. But there was something inside me that said, no, this is not how it's going to be. So I had that then. So that was a natural force inside of me. And what I've learned now is I love reading an awful lot, and I've got a lot of admiration for a lot of people out there putting their work out there. But I have learned now that you face these things because it's that moment when that fear comes in is when you're actually going to grow further. So it's like you come up against that edge of where you were, and then it opens. But you've just literally got to face that, and it's the mind. The mind will do. Well, something horrendous is going to happen. A monster's going to come out and go boo at you. And then you step beyond it and it's like, there was no monster, but it's just so you can go. Sense of humor helps me enormously with those moments as well. When my head tells me it's going to be something terrible. So I usually bring some humor into it in some way. But that's medicine in itself, humor is. So it can bridge that gap when you feel like the earth is going to open up and swallow you.
So as someone who doesn't think they're that funny myself, tell me how you bring humor into when you're on the edge of like, you can hear that little fear talking in the back of your head. How do you bring humor in? What does that look like?
It'll happen usually. I may well trip over or something silly will happen and then it'll just jerk me out of my headspace, or my son will say something funny or the dog will do something, but it can be the most simplest of things and it'll crack me up. Then I'll start laughing and then I've bridged it. It's gone. That talk like of doom and gloom, and it happens. And like humor has been a big part of my life, and it's always been there when something when it's needed. Then and it's I do love laughing and turning things around, and it's one of the lovely qualities of life that's very simple but so effective because you feel so much better when you've done it, so
you do. So yeah. I want to turn quickly to your art, because I know when you first started putting it out publicly, like in your Facebook and sharing it, I was really moved by it. The simplicity of it, the cleanliness of it. It's like you left room for the viewer or the person who was watching it to put themselves in without giving too much. It was you, but it was also all of us who are looking at it. Was that an intention on your part, or just how you do your work?
I held the space for my work, and what I did was something that I hadn't done before. Was I used watercolors, and that was the base. So I'd put watercolors on, then I'd splash water on it and step away. And in that freeing up of let the flow. And so the water would flow onto my work, and then I'd work with what was there. So it was and I believe that's what people are connecting with, because it's that freeing up flow part of it. It reminds us all to do exactly the same. There's a lot of rigidity in art which holds people back. They perceive it must be perfect. It must be this. You must replicate that. And in just allowing it to create itself, really, it reminds everyone that this is inside you. You can do exactly the same. And the beauty in working with something else as well as yourself. So I was working with the medium of the water, then the water was creating with me. So there was nothing to hold back that co-creation with something else.
Well, it's beautiful. And when you describe it like that, because I'm looking at some of your portfolio now as we're talking, because it just makes me feel closer to you, because I know you're really far away miles wise. But as you describe your process, I can see that. But then you've come back in and worked with it, but have evolved it into being even more than more than it would have been had it just been you or just been the water. It's beautiful.
Absolutely.
We hope you're enjoying today's episode, brought to you by the Strategic Vision Mastery Quiz, a quiz designed to help you know how you're doing in the 8 areas of strategic goal achievement. Just hop on over to sarahbox.com to access your free quiz, and in just 5 minutes, you'll have your results with links to valuable tools and resources to help you advance to your next level. It's all free, no strings attached, no kidding. And if you find the quiz helpful, please share it with others, friends, colleagues, co-workers, because when one of you succeed in life, all of us benefit. Now back to our interview. So I know you've been doing shows and you're marketing your thing. You're showing them both as art and prints, but also as other tangible products, right?
Yeah.
How's that been going for you?
It's been a really lovely journey because I very much enjoyed working in partnership with the people that were doing the products for me. So I chose individuals and they were there for me, and they'd let me know if they had something new that they could put my artwork on. And both of them also understood my work. So they knew what would work and what wouldn't work on something. And they'd be really honest. And so it was just this lovely feel. One's a man and one's a woman, and it was really interesting of working with both these energies and these to have my work respected by both. They're both professionals, and to have it respected by them as well. And I thoroughly enjoyed the evolution of it. I feel, and also it went in cycles, in that I would be looking at products and bringing products in, and then creating would just ease off. And then more creation would come through, and I've just really enjoyed how it flows. So sometimes you think the artist just bam, 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 out it comes. And I have my period of literally I could do one day, then another day I'd have another creation come through. And then it would ease, and it would be about the products and just bringing them to life then. And also it meant that my artwork has been accessible to people who didn't have wall space, who just couldn't have a painting, but they could have a compact with my artwork on, or they could have coasters, or, so my artwork still was being appreciated, and it touches people's hearts, because that's my intention, is it's art from my heart. So it brings that light into someone's life.
I think you've succeeded, because it has for me, and I'm just looking at it long distance across oceans. So I want to, before we went live on this, we were kind of laughing, which was fun. Yeah. But you mentioned it's interesting times energetically.
Absolutely.
And tell me what you mean by that, because I've been experiencing that, but I'd like to know from an energy worker what you mean with that.
Well, I've had these wonderful insights, and I was about to step forward with these insights, and then it was like the proverbial SHIT hit the fan, because it was like my sleep was wrecked. My stress level, suddenly I felt hypersensitive. And the mood and energy of people around me, I was just feeling it so intensely. I was like, oh my word, I'm going back into the womb. So it was just, I literally have withdrawn. So my intention was, it's time to do X, Y, Z. It felt like that. And then it's like, oh my word, I'm going nowhere. And big shifts inside. And it's almost like you have these big energies surge up in front of you and in you, so you can feel them welling up, and then they purge, they come out. It's been really intense. So, and I've spoken to other people, and I spoke to you, and I'm hugely thankful when other people feel like they're going bonkers as well, because that's what it feels like.
I hate to admit it, but as I told you before we started, those were almost my exact words. Talking to one of my dearest friends the other night, was like, is it just me, or is Mercury in retrograde? Because this week has been nuts,
Yes.
And yes, so I think you so eloquently say it's like normally you can produce and you've got this flow going, but it's almost like the flow's going, and then someone goes, "Oops, that door just closed," or "Here, deal with this," right?
Yes.
Anyway, it is oddly comforting to know you're not in it alone.
Absolutely, and the others are suffering too.
But I also think it's temporary, because it is those cycle things. Just like you said, water ebbs and flows. I know, I've been around on the planet long enough to know it ebbs and flows. But when you're in it and it's flowing, not when it's flowing at you, you're thinking, I don't much care for this. It's a bit weird.
Exactly. I think I'm going to drown. I don't like this. Can I do something? And you desperately try and tread water and get it out of it, and you can't.
No, sometimes it's just good to say, let go of your oars and just go with the flow and just go.
Absolutely.
The boat will right itself. Just chill out. So, Sally, since this has been kind of just a quick update on where you've been, what's up for you? What's coming up next?
Well, I have written a book. So I'm going to self-publish. So that's going to be it took me a while to step forward with it, because we can put our blocks in. But also I feel energetically it wasn't quite time to do it. And then suddenly, like, people appeared, or a message would appear. Even the title of my book, the words were coming up of my title without me even consciously being aware. I'd have a conversation and the words would come up, and I thought, okay. So it's being proofread at the moment, and so that will be, and I feel quite excited about it. It's a very laid bare book, so I am sharing quite an intense shifting period for me. And do you know something? People need to hear that. There's a lot of self-help books, possibly self-help books, but they can be quite light, and it doesn't necessarily give people the insight of what it feels like when you're in the eye of that hurricane. And I'm sharing the eye of that hurricane with people, because then you have that, like we did when we talked. Now I understand. Someone else has been there. I understand. This is part of the process. I will get beyond this. And so that's what I've shared in my book. And maybe also with this feeling that we've been having with this Mercury retrograde, it's time for that openness about this part of the journey as well.
So what's the title of your book, and when will you have it out?
It's called The Mask. And so that's the title of my book. And it will be out as soon as it's proofread and it's gone on through. So I will let you know when it's done. And say it's self-published, so it will all be, I'll have my hand in all of it. And it may not be the swish book, but I also feel it's the book I'm ready to, it's similar with my artwork. I'm ready to show this now. And it's the same with this. I'm ready to show this part of my journey, this depth of processing, which feels like you're not going anywhere, but actually you are far, far, far deeper than you understand. You are shifting massively. But when you're in it, it can feel, wow.
Is a good way to say it. Hey, so I would love when it's published and you're ready, I would love for you to let me know so we can share that with our podcast listeners, but also the folks who follow us on our blogs and other social media places, because I just think you have something important to share, and I'd like to be part of the tribe that helps you do it.
Thank you very much. That would be an absolute blessing, and I truly appreciate it. So thank you.
Absolutely. So Sally, any last parting words besides blah?
I would say for all those people listening that processing is worth it. It's a journey. It opens us up. It frees us. And so if you're going through a period of tough times, it's only so as you can expand. And those beautiful wings of yours will continue to grow and spread. And when you open your eyes, there's no going back. You're not meant to. And just enjoy and trust in your life that's unfolded. And we're always surrounded by something more than us. Like we talked about, the celestial beings. There's always energy around us. There's always support.
Well, that's it for this week's edition of the No Labels, No Limits podcast. We hope you liked what you heard, and if you did, we ask that you go over to iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever else you listen to the podcast and leave us a rating and review. If you know someone who would enjoy this podcast, please be sure to share it. And until next time, have a great week living a no labels, no limits, and no excuses life.